Hi everyone, my name is John Holden. I'd like to welcome you here today to Liverpool Lime Street. You've probably heard the term before, layout of a lifetime. Well, this is my layout of a lifetime. Literally it began when I was a little boy of 5 and my mother used to take me down to London every year for New Year. The station just left a lasting impression on me, and this is now my 3rd attempt at Lime Street. So I'll take you for a walk round now, so come with me and we'll go and have a look at the Fiddle Yard. So here we are now at the Fiddle Yard, probably representing the rest of the world in terms of Lime Street. This is where we store all the trains that go to Lime Street. There are 10 sidings, 20 odd feet long, and we can stack 2 trains in each siding. What we'll do now is follow the Manxman on its journey as an empty stop working into Lime Street. To get the train onto the cutting on its way to Lime Street, we use what's called a sector plate. In our case, this is electrically operated. So what we'll see now, Steve, the operator, is going to move the sector plate across, and then we'll bring the train out onto the sector plate. It's coming from siding 2. And it'll come onto sector plate road 4, and it'll come down the track and it will stop by this, stop under this gantry and uncouple. What we need to do now is to put a loco on the other end to take the empty stock down to Lime Street. What we have here is what we call edge shunts. We've got A and B. So what Steve will do now is bring one of these locos back onto here, but of course the sector plate has to move across to the appropriate road. So the Stanley 264 will back on and couple up. Now that you move the sector plate, now he's coupled up, he will move the sector plate forward to align the track up to the up fast line into Lime Street. Now it's arrived, he will draw the train forward, ready to depart. Now what we're going to do next is to just have a look at the control panels to see how the control of this train is now transferred to the station end. Now that the sector plate has moved into position, Steve has to hand over control to the station operator. To do this, firstly he has to cancel the previous move by pressing the centre button, and then the flashing red light at the far left hand side of the layout, he presses the button. That now hands over control to the station operator. Just before we go to have a look at the operators at the station end, might be interesting to just have a look at Lime Street Throat. Lime Street Station is only approached via a 4-track cutting, and this is a section of it that we've modelled. It's the last 400 yards before the station throat. You can see the way we've done it here. We've got it all open at the front so the public can see the cutting, but on the top we've got a number of buildings, some of which are absolutely as they existed. We have these flats here which were as they existed at the time. This gantry here for the signals, which includes theatre indicators showing what platform the train's going to arrive at. As we move down here, we've got Liverpool University buildings which still exist today. The Muscat building here, there's an engineering building. All 4 buildings there have been made by Chris Hewitt, and they're all replicas of the buildings as they were done there. One interesting difference nowadays is this section of here has actually been concreted over and there's a building on there. But apart from that, everything's exactly as it was post World War II. Okay, here we are now at the station end, and as you can see this is a far bigger panel. Indeed, it's a 2-man panel. We've got Les and Rob here who are operating this end, and they're now going to set up the route for our incoming train. firstly, we have to call attention to the processor that controls this. Rob will now set that going. The processor's now watching. Rob will put the first button, which is the down slow button, and Les will operate the one at the far end of platform 7, which now sets the route through. You probably can't see it on the camera, but there are LEDs who have lit up all the way along, proving the route. So now we're ready for our train to move. Rob is in control, and he has the controller, and on his video screen he's got sight of the train ready to move. So off we go, Rob. And here now we see our empty stock arriving on platform 7 in Lime Street Station. Platform 7 and 8 are actually the main platforms for the main express trains to and from London. You'll notice the road down the middle. This is one of the characteristics of Lime Street, where the taxis can come up and down. So our train's now arrived in platform 7 here safely. I'm sure you can see here we've got a fantastic station, and I'd like to introduce you now to some of the people that have been involved. Unfortunately, everybody can't be here today. In fact, some of these magnificent buildings, the chap is actually from Liverpool, Chris Hewitt, but the weathering that's going on these buildings has been done by our friend Rob. Rob, would you like to tell us now what you're actually doing with the weathering and everything?
Well, my job basically is to create atmosphere. We are trying to depict Liverpool Lime Street in the years 1945 to 1947, and of course we're no more than 2 years after the cessation of hostilities, and things are still rather dull and dismal, and in fact using both powders and paint I am trying to create this dull atmosphere. I deal with the buildings, the roadways, and of course the road vehicles. Here we have a double-deck bus that we've been weathering, various other vehicles that we've been weathering. We also, of course, very importantly, weather our engines. So my job is to make sure that the years 1945 to 1947 are shown on this layout.
Thanks, Rob. So, moving around now, one of the most striking features about this station is its roof. I'm sure if the camera pulls back now, you can see what an amazing thing this is. This represents a massive amount of work. I'd like now to introduce you to the man behind this layout, Les. As you can see, this roof is absolutely amazing. Les, this must have taken you hours and hours slaving away on a computer. Would you like to tell everybody now a little bit about how you went about doing this roof?
Thank you, John. I'm Les. I've been working with John probably about 30 years doing demonstrations at exhibitions throughout the north of England.
Doesn't sound long when you say it quick, does it, Les?
No. And about 6 years ago, he asked if I would draw up the columns for the station roof, which are these items here. I think originally he expected 10mm dowels to support the roof.
I did.
But I thought we can do this on the laptop, and using some 3D CAD software I drew up the whole of the roof. And from that drawing we could see that the curvature of the roof along the length of the platforms would look right. So we went ahead, got all the etchings done. I think there were about 40 sheets, was it?
Yeah.
A3 etchers.
Nickel silver.
And it weighed a ton. And the first thing to do was make these small links here. And a team of 4 of us spent many hours making 800 of these links.
I have nightmares about that, Les.
But once they were done, the rest of the construction was pretty quick. And the final result, I think you'll agree, looks quite good. The quantities involved were incredible. Nickel silver wire, 0.7mm. 220 metres of it were used, 2 rows of solder, 2 jars of flux. But in the end, this is what we've got.
A worthwhile product, a worthwhile indeed. And again, Les, many thanks for what you've done.
You're welcome.
I think everybody really appreciates it. One of the hallmarks of our railway here is the enthusiasm of everybody that's involved and the talent of the people. I feel so lucky to have these people involved. One other person we've got here today has got equally amazing talent. His job has been in producing all the signals. We have signals here, tiny little ground signals that work, including backlights, and we have an amazing gantry here with 12 arms on it. So I'd now like to introduce you to our main man on signals, our Steve. So Steve, would you like to come and tell us all about these fabulous signals you made?
Oh, thanks very much, John. If you recall, it's quite a few years since now that you asked me to make the signals for you, and I was very pleased to do so. The signals that we've represented here are really in 2 main designs. The ones nearest to me here on the layout are standard LMS products, although they're based on earlier London North Western components from the ground up, a feature of cost saving during the wartime when the minimum amount of money was being spent by the railways. And the earlier signals, which we see over here on the layout, they're still standard London North Western designs going back to the 1920s or before. All the models are designed to work in as prototype a fashion as we can possibly make them. So they're controlled by servo motors and a sophisticated electronic system to drive the servo motors so that they actually move in a realistic manner. In addition to that, they're illuminated as the real ones were with a simulation of an oil lamp, which is in fact an LED mounted underneath the baseboard, and then the light conducted by fibre optics up to the signal level.
The thing about these, Steve, is every one of these you've got so close to the prototype in the way that you've done things like these torsion bars. Not everybody does that on a layout, do they?
They don't, no, but what I've found in making models like this has always been that if you want to get a design for your model, the best place to start is with the prototype. And if you can miniaturise what the engineers did in real life, then you end up with a realistic model. And that's what I've tried to achieve here.
Well, thanks for that, Steve. Well, there you are now. You've seen a train work its way from the fill yard, through the sector plate, down the cutting into the station. You've met some of the chaps with all their various talents, and I thought before we finish now, I'd let you have a little insight into what you wouldn't normally see at an exhibition, what goes on underneath. If you look here now, you can see various bits of circuitry. Here is the circuit board that controls all these servos that are operating those signals that you saw before. Over here we have a node which is for controlling the signal servos. Here we have a bank of relays which control all the polarity of the frogs on the point work, and here the various point motors. And finally, over here, the big box of tricks with all the processors in. So I don't want to bore you anymore with all this. Why don't we go and watch a few trains?